like to share a little bit about what I have learned in life, and I hope that it reaches the ears that need to hear it. So I'd like to start with a quote. All you behold, though it appears without, is within, in your imagination, of which this world of mortality is but a shadow. And that's by William Blake. So I invite you to consider, how do you invest in you? Where do you deposit your energy? And what are your returns? How do you invest your thoughts? We have options. The world is our buffet. Investments are in the form of our attention. We can choose news or meditation. We can choose the outer world or our inner world. We can choose drama, or we can choose to bless others and imagine lovingly for them. We can choose duty and push aside our own needs, or we can choose to be authentically us and express that in all areas of our life. Another question, where do you deposit your energy? Where do you shine the light of your attention? I'd like to offer that desiring is divinely inspired. So think about what you desire and where do you choose to play in life? What are your investment returns? Your outer world echoes your inner, which is your consciousness or your awareness of being. Your body is your barometer. It tells us how we are investing and gives us returns. And I became aware of this many years ago, almost 20 now. This was before I became a healer and started on this journey. And it was then that I invested differently. I found myself investing in other people's opinions. I invested in being a victim. I invested in scarcity and lack. I invested in hiding my truth. And you know what? My investments began giving me returns. Anxiety, depression, stress, aches and pains, stomach upset, thyroid malfunction. And that's when I began to wake up. I have lived the story of the wounded healer. Without it, I would not be who I am. So I'd like to share a little bit about that. Almost 20 years ago, I felt very alone. I felt abandoned. I felt like I had nothing left. In fact, I could not demonstrate one single thing that I physically owned. I was in my parents' home again as an adult, feeling very, very upset. But you know, that was my rebirth time. That was the time that I rediscovered who I really am. And it didn't happen overnight, but I did feel a calling at that time to go within and stop focusing on the outer. And when I began to do that, doors began to open for me. Spirit began to orchestrate perfect alignment in my life when I allowed it, when I got out of my own way. And I'm sure a lot of you have been in that situation where you feel like If I could just get past this and then maybe set up your own resistance, your own walls until something attracts your attention and you notice that you're really not living your truth. I do want to share that when I was at my parents' home at that time, I used to like to go out and try to get out of there. And there was a favorite bookstore I had. It was a metaphysical bookstore. I've been going there for years because they had crystals and interesting books and psychic readers and healers. And all of that was so fascinating to me, but I never felt like I was really part of it. And so I went there one day and I just would look through the books and I didn't know this was happening, but I would just feel compelled to find a certain book. And I'd say, oh, that's the one for me. And I actually still have the book. I have the edition, and I'll show you a mini. You probably have seen it or used it. It's called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And Louise Hay is has a phenomenal story. I began to read this book, and she told her life story about suffering, literally suffering from abuse, from cancer, from all types of just depression and stress and anxiety. And, you know, I was reading this book and I thought, oh my gosh, I connect with this story. I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't know I was depressed. I also didn't understand that perhaps I was empathetically, I was picking up on other people's feelings in my environment. I didn't know how to separate my energy from the outer world or sort of refine it and protect it and cleanse it. None of that. I didn't know any of that then. So I began reading her story. And what the story is, to put it succinctly, is that she started turning inward and became a religious science practitioner. Religious science is like a version or an offshoot, I guess you'd say, and I may be not terming this correctly, of Christian science. And Christian scientists really don't go to doctors. They just look within and they heal themselves. Now, Louise Hay began working with thousands of people as a practitioner. And she would hear their stories and they would come to her with, you know, their version of what's happening to them. I'm upset. I'm in a relationship that's abusive. I have anxiety. And then they'd also explain how their body felt as well. And she began to notice a pattern, a correlation, if you will, of probable causes of mental patterns and how they resulted in the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body. And she noticed of the thousands of people she worked with, she could validate when this person is telling me about this mental pattern, this is happening in their body. So isn't it interesting that our thoughts, what we feel like at the time, can have an outward effect on our environment, much like what Gail has said about Dr. Emoto with the water testing. So I started thinking about that and looking in the back of the book at the appendix she included, which was really the foundation of this book, how she started. And so she would say things like the probable cause would be a back issue, for example. And so people who had back issues, lower back, middle back, upper back, there's some difference, but basically they didn't feel supported by life. They didn't feel supported by the universe or source or God. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I started looking around at people in my life and their issues, their physical issues. Oh, my mother has back problems. Does that really fit her? And I thought, well, yeah, it does. And so then I started looking into other health issues as they came up for me. For example, knee issues, feet issues, legs demonstrate a resistance and a futility of moving forward in life, which makes sense. Your legs and feet move forward, move you forward. So something came up for me and I didn't know what it was. And this is sort of a cycling, because life spirals. We don't stay in this aha moment the entire time we're living. And so I kind of spiraled back down into depression many years later. And I noticed that I was covering up what I really felt. I was self-medicating. I was not really addressing who I was authentically. I felt very abandoned, all these things. And then my body started to slow down, literally slow down. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I couldn't manage to feel alert, like I hadn't slept at all, even though I'd slept 12 hours. My internal organs began to slow down. My digestion slowed down. And why was that? What was happening to me? I went to the doctor. They didn't quite understand. I said, I just don't know what's happening. And then, of course, well, here, take a medicine, take a pill. Here, you're depressed. This will help. And, I knew it was more than that. I accepted that there might be depression, but I knew there was more than that. So eventually they did blood work and they discovered I had an underactive thyroid, which is a very common thing among people. And what happens is your body slows down. You never feel like you have any rest. Your mental alertness goes away. You're constipated, which is never a good feeling. You may feel very cold all the time. And so I was prescribed medication and they told me, you'll take this the rest of your life. Okay. So I took the medication. I began to even out. I noticed I felt better. I started adopting a better lifestyle, healthier food. I was aware of, kind of what I was putting into my mind, investing in my mind and my attention differently. And lo and behold, after about 4 years of being on thyroid medication, going to the endocrinologist because it is a hormonal imbalance, I really felt good. And then one point, I noticed my heart was palpitating so fast, so fast, so fast. And that's an indication, long story short, of overactive thyroid. So what was happening to me? Why would I be underactive with this low, slow movement through life and suddenly be like so crazy, frenetic, like everything was like, whoo, like this energetically? Well, come to find out, my medication, although it remained monitored, was actually stimulating my hormonal system too much. And do you know why? Because I had corrected my hormonal imbalance and the medication was too much for me. And so guess what? I'm not on hormonal thyroid medication anymore. I haven't been for many years. And I'm not promoting that you take yourself off a medication, but I will tell you that all the tests revealed that I was in balance again. And that got me thinking, I'm going to stay in balance. I'm not going through that again. And so every day for me is a practice of investing. I invest my attention in things I want. I don't pay attention to the negative. It's around. I don't need to invest in it. So the point is, choose where you shine your light of attention. Notice how it feels when you're in this other energy. If you're focusing on the news a lot, it's kind of a low vibration, right? All we're hearing about right now, war, financial upset. We don't have to choose to live in that. We can lovingly imagine for the people who are suffering, but we don't have to suffer with them. We can lovingly create our own life and extend our blessings to others by walking our walk authentically and loving ourselves the best we can. And that's all you can really do. And so take it one day at a time and practice being balanced, practice centering yourself, And it can be as easy as taking a walk outside, meditating or sitting in awareness 5 or 10 minutes a day. Watching what you eat doesn't have to be complicated. And that's my message. I really, really hope and wish and send blessings to all of you. Thank you so much.